Was it Andy Warhol that said everybody's going to have a podcast for 10,000 hours? Well, now I have one.
Says what he wants, but he's uncontradicted. When it comes to boxers, the briefs, he's a little bit conflicted. Walks the streets of Atlanta, he's totally unrestricted. He's a man of conviction, but he's never been convicted.
Hello everyone and welcome to Man of Conviction. My name is Matthew Gossin and I will be your host. I'm launching this on my birthday. Today I am 51 years old. Thank you. Thank you for your kind wishes. Send your kind wishes to manofconvictionpodcast@gmail.com or manofconvictionpod on Instagram. Check out the website manofconvictionpodcast.com. I really want to thank Daria Benedict for the amazing music. She's going to be a guest in the very near future. So this podcast is going to be me talking to people from the TV and film industry, from stand-up comics to crew members, from actors to editors, and when no one else is available, I'll talk to whoever I can find. First, let me just tell you a little about myself. I was born in Los Angeles. I've lived in San Diego, Hawaii, Alaska, and San Diego again. Back to Los Angeles. I went to USC, spent a semester in Paris, a semester in Madrid, where I met my wife. I live in Van Nuys. We have two fabulous children, two boys, 16 and 13, and I am primarily a TV editor when I can find the work. I do some camera work, some low-end directing, but my primary bread and butter for the past almost 26 years has been editing. Like I said, I went to USC. I got my way into the film school there. I graduated in 93, got in on the very early end of nonlinear editing. The Avid editing software was my savior. I learned early and was able to get work because of that. Spent many years freelance editing. I cut a lot of award shows, game shows. I worked on the first season of Big Brother. I cut 5 episodes of The Osbournes. I was fortunate enough to know a couple of the writers on The Tonight Show and managed to weasel my way into almost a decade-long run on The Tonight Show, which was crazy, unheard of for a freelance editor, I know. I stopped working there when Jay stopped working there in 2014. And since then, I've been editing less and less, been shooting stuff for friends, sometimes for money, sometimes not. But, the workload has definitely slowed down. Yeah, there is work, but it's just less quality for less money. And that's just the way it goes. Thank goodness I have a 89 Volkswagen camper van. That's my backup plan. So why am I doing this? Well, I was approached by a friend who was producing a podcast for somebody and basically passed it off to me. So I set up the podcast studio in my little casita in the backyard here, and I thought if I'm gonna do 1, maybe 2 recordings a week, I'm gonna have the microphones just sitting here. I might as well do another podcast. It's already set up. The infrastructure's there, so that's why I'm doing this. It's my way of recycling. I've always liked learning about people, and I'm told I'm a good listener, so here we go. My first guest is a man who writes comedy. I met him in 2006 or 7 when he came back to The Tonight Show to be a writer. He was there before I got there, I think, and left and then came back. And his name's Dave Rygalski, and he's agreed to be my first guest, and I really appreciate it. So, without any delay, we're going to go right to that interview with Dave Rygalski. All right, so I'm here with Dave Rygalski.
Hi.
So
I'm
thanks
Dave Rygalski.
I appreciate you doing this, dude.
My pleasure. Tuesday nights are very routine, so this gives me something else.
Awesome. So, where did we meet?
We met on The Tonight Show. It was my second stint. I came back in December of 2005.
Okay.
Took a while to convince Jay to bring me back. I did 2 pieces with Brian Herzlinger as sort of tests.
Right.
And Jay remembered me having a temper, and he was reluctant to bring me back because he didn't want to deal with that. And Joe Medeiros convinced him that A, I could add to the show, and B, it's a 13-week contract. I can be fired.
Wow, I would have never thought of you having a temper. I guess I've never seen that side of you.
You know, there was a story that happened. I was in the Cannes Film Festival with Ali Wentworth, and Jay didn't like the piece that we satellited back, and his mic was on in rehearsal, and I could hear him say, "I don't think this piece is very good," essentially.
Wow.
And everybody heard it in 3 o'clock in the morning in France, waiting to do a rehearsal. And I was sort of stunned, and I just said, "Hey, Jay, it's Rygalski. I disagree. I think the piece is really good, and I gotta." Your mic was open, and Ali heard everything you just said, and he remembered that essentially. And I would fight for stuff, and he just likes a easier atmosphere, I think. And I got back, and the very first day I started on staff again, I came up with the Pumpcast pitch, and got a bunch of other stuff going within the first week. And in that first week, I went and dropped off some jokes, and Jay actually said, "Hey, Dave, I'm glad you're back."
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
So, and I'm probably more mature as well.
Right on.
Pick my spots.
Sure. Yeah. Let's go back to how you got into the business in the beginning. Like, what was your first taste of comedy or TV?
I went to school for video production at Ohio University. So it was, some video production classes, and I was walking down the hallway in between classes, and I heard somebody talking about an internship that they just completed at Letterman at the 12:30 show. And like my ears and eyes went, "What? I want to do that." So it's really easy. You just call information and ask for the number for NBC, and you call NBC and you go, "Can I have the Late Night with Dave Letterman show?" And the receptionist, "Hey, you guys taking interns?" And went for an interview. Didn't hear back. Called every week, and finally got it with the graphics coordinator, which was Ed Hall at the time.
Okay.
Who went on to be the Tonight Show announcer.
Sure.
First announcer. Did the internship for 3 months. It was just wild. Got to be in a lot of bits.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, which helped pay since it was a free internship, and you got some AFTRA. There was one bit in particular that I was so bad at. The Merchant Marine was supposed to appear, their Merchant Marine choir, and they canceled at the last minute, so they did a bit about the Merchant Marines just being drunk and not able to go. And I was one of the Merchant Marines, and I was supposed to be chugging a beer and yelling, "Give me another one!" And I just, my acting skills are not very good. And so I had to drink like 6 ginger ales to get it to the point where they're like, "All right, that's good enough. We're not going to get any better."
Did I see something about an Amish character?
Yeah.
I did my research.
You did. There's a guy, Don Giller, on, he's got a YouTube channel, and he's essentially an unauthorized archivist. Not anarchist, I was going to say. Maybe a little both. But he, back in the day, for whatever obsessive reason, was recording on VHS every episode of Late Night. He's got them all. And so he's digitally uploaded them to YouTube, and he's had some issues, but they're there for the most part.
You have to have downloaded all those and have them.
They're on his channel, so I don't need them. They're already.
But like for a reel for yourself or something, like a fun, like, "Hey, look, here's a little." I
should.
You should, dude. You know how to get rip off of YouTube, right?
Yeah. I've got a couple. Some of them are sketchy where they put malware on your computer.
Really?
Best Downloader is the one I use.
There's one called Clip Grab.
Okay.
Clip Grab. That it's in the UK. It's been good. It's very, very cool. Anyway.
Don, I've never met him. I've only been chatting with him through Twitter, because he'll post a montage of things and at the people who are in them. So he reposted the Amish guy one, which was a parody of the Budweiser or Bud Light commercial. So first he posted it without, and then someone got him the actual commercial, and then he put the commercial in with it, so it made more sense about what they were parodying. Another one that he put a montage together that I didn't realize there were so many of them. There were about 15. They were called Father Biff, and it was a parody of some primetime drama, Father something else. And so Biff Henderson, the stagehand, played a priest who was tough but fair. And me and Ed Hall were always the young punks getting into trouble. And he just put them all together. It was just wild. Wow, I was in a lot of bits, amongst others.
I'll put some links up on the
Sure.
webpage. Yeah,
it's Giller if you look for him.
Okay.
Don Giller.
Okay, great.
The internship ended. Had to go back to school. Finished my degree. Moved to California for a year, and wasn't getting anywhere.
Were you trying to get on a TV show? Or
Yeah,
were you trying to
PA,
anything? Just
grip,
production,
whatever. Yeah,
just anything.
Yeah, did a couple of freelance like MTV, Pee Wee Herman's, the sequel. What was that called? Big Top. Yeah. So they had a big premiere party for that I worked on, but things weren't really going that great. So I decided to go back to New York and try and get into Letterman. So I let them know I was there. I was working at Tower Records on 66 and Broadway, and got a call. Hey, need a receptionist. Interested? Yeah, absolutely. And I was like making $300 a week as a receptionist. I was like, this is twice as much as I've ever made on any job in my life.
You were so happy to be there.
Yeah, in New York, with $300 a week in a studio apartment sharing with a guy.
You had plenty of dough.
Oh boy. Well, those bits really helped, getting in those bits. And so I was receptionist, I think a year and a half, maybe 2 years, and got hired as a writer's assistant for a year and a half, 2 years, one or the other. I can't remember. Mm-hmm. And then finally got staffed in May of 1989 on our last show in Chicago at the Chicago Theater. After that taping, Steve O'Donnell, the head writer, sat me down and just said, hey, we're going to bring you on the writing staff.
Awesome.
And it was just like a nice, momentous, empty Chicago theater sitting on the desk, and just, I'll savor this.
Yeah.
So, and then I immediately broke out in a rash for a week. I had to go to a dermatologist and get ultraviolet treatments on it because I just got
you were so
stressed
excited.
out. And no, it was just, oh my God, I got the job. How am I going to keep it?
Wow, really? Your stress manifested in the skin condition.
Yeah, it rosacea, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah,
interesting.
Never had it again, but I think I realized I think I'm out of ideas already.
Well, how long did you last there?
I stayed about a year and a half, and then Leno got the Tonight Show, and things just got dark, and it wasn't fun anymore with Letterman. And that's on me. It wasn't Dave's job to entertain me,
Sure,
or keep me in a good mood. He had his own major issues to deal with.
Sure, he was bummed when that all went down.
Yeah.
I can imagine. And then
I stayed in New York, wound up at MTV writing on-air promos, jumped over to comedy. It was either the Comedy Channel or Comedy Central. I don't know when they merged into Comedy Central. Writing promos as well. And at the time, Penn Jillette was the voice of the network.
Okay.
So whatever the little teases were that said what's coming up in between shows, that was Penn's voice on it. And I wrote those and went in and recorded them and got them on carts and sent them out to the various, however it worked in cable. They're not
all the affiliates or whatever.
I can't remember. I think it was like time zones, so I had to send the load out to like Central or Mountain, Pacific.
Okay.
And that was kind of fun hanging out with Penn.
He seems like an interesting guy.
He's very interesting.
Smart. Seems like a smart guy.
Super smart.
Yeah.
Let's see. That was then it was like I gotta get out to LA. There's no jobs here, and I don't want to be pigeonholed as a promo writer. And moved out in 92. Got staffed on the Chevy Chase show in 93. That lasted 29 episodes.
Was it? I was going to say 1 month, right? Yeah. Oh, no, it was
6 weeks.
6 weeks, yeah. I was always a fan of Chevy Chase. He used to always crack me up. And then you heard some stories. Heard he was kind of be a jerk. Yeah.
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 He's a dick.
Is he? Oh, yeah.
He's the elder statesman of comedy. He feels, and
gatekeeper.
The first meeting I had with him, he pontificated about The Simpsons not being funny.
Wow.
So that was a bad take.
That's hilarious.
And the other thing the executive producer, Steve Binder, was like in the interview as well, and he's like, for Chevy, I see classic rock legends like the Rolling Stones, and all right, there's what, 5 of those, so you're doing a show every week. You're going to go through those pretty quick. And they won't sing, they'll talk too, which could be good, but most of them don't want to talk. They just want to play their song, go home.
Huh. Where did they do that? Hollywood Center?
No, they took a theater that was a famous theater in the 50s. It was like a mob hangout.
Huh.
Yeah, all the guys and gals, dolls. They renamed it the Chevy Chase Theater soon after it was. I think Nickelodeon bought it and did some shows under the Nickelodeon banner. I can't remember what they named it after that. But they put a lot of money, and Fox bought the theater and put the Chevy Chase name on it, taking down like this historic neon sign.
Wow.
Probably sitting in some Van Nuys warehouse. Where's that? There's a neon.
There is. It's around here, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. And what happened after Chevy? Oh, Joe Toplin was co-head writer at Chevy. And when the show got canceled, Jay Leno brought him on to be co-head writer with Joe Medeiros.
Okay.
And an opening came up, and Joe liked me and said, let's talk to Dave. And interview with Joe, and said hi to Jay, and got the job the next, I guess, day or so. They called.
And that first run, how long did that
That
last?
was from 94 to 98. And in 98, I got offered the head writer job on the Magic Johnson show.
Okay.
And I think we had 10 weeks of pre-production, and I think they fired me 6 weeks in.
Oh, boy.
Because I was the problem with that show.
Oh, no. They had to blame it on somebody, right?
Yeah. Usually they say the set decorator goes first. Whatever reason.
Wow. I worked on the Keenan Ivory Wayans show.
And that was a good show.
That was fun. That was a lot of crazy last minute.
You had
editing.
Anthony and Andy.
Yep.
Did anybody else come over, editor wise or production?
No. But Wanda Sykes was a writer.
Ah.
And I worked with her a few times, and she was
Fun.
cool. Yeah, she was. I like her. They put me in a few bits and stuff.
That's always a treat.
Yeah.
Did they bring Living Color people over, or was that a
Yes.
separate entity? Were they on at the same time?
No, he got the show because of In Living Color. So he brought like some key people over with him. Yeah.
There was I've heard some stories that I can't repeat because they're not firsthand about Keenan. The hours weren't exceptional, from what I understand. There were some really late nights.
Yeah, he'd like to stay late and work them late, and he'd come in late in the day too. Yeah. We apparently I would see sets all set up and stuff, and he'd show up and say, "Yeah, we're not going to do this bit," and there was a lot of money spent. There was a lot of money spent on that show. Yeah.
That was the rare thing with Leno, that we didn't kill a lot of stuff, which may be better or worse. I don't know. But the shows themselves are such hungry beasts that it's disposable. You just got to move on.
The fact that you have to make 3 times as much stuff that actually airs surprises people. But when you do it, it makes perfect sense, because you just can't use everything. Not everything makes it. It's not. Sometimes you try, it's like it didn't quite get there.
That's
a no.
The trick, because you want to push the boundaries and try new stuff, but there's no guarantee, and that's why it was get the headlines out.
Yeah, that's kind of, was always a go-to, right? When like every 3 weeks or so, headlines were.
If there were times that he did it more than once a week.
Wow.
They were Monday headlines, and they changed it to Tuesday headlines, but then it went back to Monday. And I was the last person in charge of coordinating headlines for like the last 4 years. I think once when we went back to 11:30 after the 10 o'clock debacle, I got put in charge of it. And it was always the thing I dreaded, reading just on my own batch. But I have nightmares now. Still, I have stress nightmares where it's Monday, and in my dream I forgot to read headlines, and it's rehearsal, and I don't have any read or culled to test out on Dave Banks. And I told Jay that we had that dinner a month or two ago.
Uh-huh.
And he's like, I never have stress dreams, never. Never had a stress dream in my life.
So how did the headlines work? All the writers would take a batch home
Yeah.
and then kind of bring their favorites in, and then you would go through and sort of
Go
decide.
through them with Jay and pick hopefully 40, but probably maybe 1,000 a week got read between all the writers. And it's, what's the word? We used it earlier. It's drudgery, tedious.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you get the same ones, and it's fine print, and it hurts your eyes trying to read help wanted ads that are just like 6-point type.
I bet.
But it was a staple. It got the show. That was one less segment out of 5 a week that you needed, or 10, I guess.
Out of 45 to 48 weeks a year or whatever it was.
Yeah.
What a great gig that was. It was almost 10 years for me. That
Really?
was such a run, man. I was so lucky. As a freelance editor, man, I felt like I hit the lottery.
And were you actually staff
No, they were
the whole time you were freelance?
Mhm.
Were you DGA?
Yeah,
Okay.
I got into the DGA
Through
through
Okay.
that job.
Good.
I have a pension now. It's beautiful.
Yes.
I know. It's crazy.
I am 21 points shy of being fully vested.
Ooh.
I've got my 5-year thing,
Yeah.
but I'm trying to sell a show so I can
Get
just
those 21.
I could do it in a year, essentially, when they change the rules.
I'm trying to. I have this show idea. I'm gonna. I'm into languages, right? I like
Oh, yeah.
language. So, I've always thought if you really tried hard, you could get proficient pretty quickly. But if you just really pushed it, anyway, I have a friend in Denmark who said, if you want to come, you can stay with me. So my goal is to study grammar and just vocabulary, and then go to Denmark, go to Copenhagen, stay there for 30 days, and make a travel show, but make it where at the same time you're seeing my progress in Danish, and at the end, it's how far did you get in a month? And
Yeah. I think you'll be fairly conversational.
Yeah.
You have a knack for it, so good luck with that. That should be fun.
Thank you.
Even if nothing happens, it's a fun trip for a month.
Yeah, and the wife has actually given me permission. She's like, "Go," because it's her friend. She's a Spanish woman who married a Danish guy, and they live in Copenhagen.
I don't think Eleni saw my hat,
She didn't.
or she ignored it.
She did. Yeah. Dave is wearing a Barcelona hat, and my wife is from Madrid, Spain, and I am also a Real Madrid fan, but I'm not rabid, or
The only
wouldn't tell
reason
you
that I'm a fan is because I went there for my honeymoon, and the season happened to be starting, and the game was on TV, and the fireworks to start the game around the whole rim of this giant stadium was just like, wow, they really like soccer here. And
It's like church.
I got the first my hat. We were leaving at the airport. They had a FBC store at the airport. That's all they sold. So
It's a great team. I love that city. I love the culture. I'm fascinated by that region of Spain, and it's just I married into a Real Madrid family, and
Yep,
if I know what's good for me, I just better pick that team and just move forward.
the flight attendants on the way back were British. I think we were on Virgin, and they were giving me shit. They wanted Manchester, and so I took the hat off. It was a better flight. Where are we?
Yeah, where are we? Let's see.
Let's see. All right, I got back to Leno in 2005 and rode that out. The security of the job, it's great, but it also has a downside in that you're in that job, you're not meeting new people and making new contacts.
Yep, I learned that myself.
So that's what the struggle's been. Not that I've been working too hard at it. I've realized at this point now I have to run my own show. I don't want to work for anybody else anymore. Talent-wise, it's got to be someone I am on the same level as.
Right.
And so I'm pitching a show with a friend, Eddie Feldman, who I worked with on Chevy Chase, Dennis Miller, CNBC show.
Mm-hmm.
You Don't Know Jack with Paul Rubens. There's one other one in there.
You Don't Know Jack. Yeah,
the Orlando Jones show. That was the other one.
You wrote a lot of those questions for that that
Not the questions.
produced those DVDs or those?
No. ABC did a 6-episode run around the year 2000 in the summer and fall. I remember it specifically being 2000 because that's the year I got married, and I had to take 2 days off because I got married, and they docked my pay for that.
Wow.
Thanks for the good wishes.
Wow.
Carsey Warner, yeah. Delightful. And Paul Rubens was delightful too. And I can't remember. They actually had people write the questions as a separate part of the staff, and then they wanted to do more bits, and that's what Paul signed on for. He didn't want to do a straight game show. And that's where the heads butted, and because it turned into more about the actual contest, and he wanted to do funny bits, like behind-the-scenes stuff as well.
And they're like, no, it's a game show, and
But he got sold a bill of goods on it. He was told there'd be more comedy, and then the same thing happened on another pilot I did with Fred Willard as the host, called What the Blank, and it was essentially match games. Mm-hmm. And Fred was like, we're doing all behind-the-scenes stuff, right? Why are we keeping score? What's that about? So we did 2 pilots in a day and never got picked up. And Fred was not displeased with that. That's what they do. If you start with a game show, it's going to end up a game show.
Yeah.
You know, Larry Sanders is what everyone was hoping to do. A version of that for that genre. So
you'd have to really not focus on the game so much.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
You couldn't care.
Yeah.
What
is it, a pyramid? Or what is it? Yeah, a board? Who cares? Yeah.
The thing I didn't mention, working on Dennis Miller's CNBC show.
Yeah.
I went in, the show had already been on the air for like 6 months, and I got in because I wanted to start doing more tape pieces. The first bit I got on was a inner office Olympics in year 2004 Olympics, and it killed in the audience. And during the commercial break, Dennis called me out to the audience and introduced me to the audience and said he did that bit, and I got like an ovation, and it was just so nice.
Oh, great!
It was wild. Nobody's ever been that complimentary. And then the next day we were off, and I was visiting Eddie Feldman at his office, and Dennis happened to call and wanted to talk to me on the phone, and he actually said, "Thank you for making my show better."
Wow!
So that's Dennis. You were good to me, so
nice.
I appreciate that.
And Dennis, if you're listening, this is amazing. Gosh, what else could we talk about?
I've been more interested in music, and as you know, you shot my Sam Phillips concert that was a thrill of a lifetime. And
yeah, she's really just they're all so talented. I was so lucky to like just be around it. It was great, dude. It really was.
They're such sweet people, all of them. And the crowning achievement of that after our driveway premiere was it got the Grammy Museum in downtown LA had a screening of it with a Q&A with me and Sam.
Oh, that's awesome, dude.
It was silly. Wow. I didn't tell you about that before.
No, I don't know.
I didn't want to make people feel like they had to come see it again. So
well, I would have come.
It was really fun. I was nervous. I'm not good at this sort of thing. But because of the talk show background, I hadn't met the questioner, the moderator, and but I was thinking, what's he going to ask me? And I had an old cassette of Sam's her debut album, The Indescribable Wow, and so I brought that with me, hoping he would ask, so how long have you been interested in Sam's music? Right, I pulled it out and I said, I've got proof. This is the cassette, and it was actually a promotional copy, and it says on it in fine print, "Must be surrendered upon demand," or something like that. So I just said, "Here, Sam, it's yours." It's back, and the tape's broke, so you might have to get that spliced. I've got it on CD now. So.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that was a great concert.
It's for sale on Sam's website it was at a discounted price. So not sure.
Is that at samphillips.com?
Samphillips.com. She's putting more music together. She's always writing, and also her husband Eric Gorfain is
very talented musician,
multi-instrumentalist, and has the section quartet, and they played with everybody. They played on a Tonight Show a bunch, backing up like Christina Aguilera and a bunch of other people. So it was always fun to have them come by. My other big claim to fame, actually,
please.
if you Google my name, the best high school revenge ever is Adam Brody's picture comes up. Adam Brody, the actor from the OC, and previously he played a little character named Dave Rygalski on the Gilmore Girls.
And how did the character get that name, Dave?
Well, my wife Helen Pye worked on Gilmore, and a character on the show, Lane Kim, was based on her. A lot of stories from her life filtered into the show through Amy Sherman Palladino, a very dear friend, and the season, I think Dave Rygalski was only season 2 and 3 because he got the OC and was the star of that, so he went away. But they in their prep, they're writing out the stories. They're figuring out what they're doing with the episodes. And for Lane, they said, we got to get Lane a boyfriend. We got to get her Dave Rygalski. And then they just said, let's just name him Dave Rygalski. All right. So there's a couple things that were expounded upon from things that happened with me and Helen and her Seventh-day Adventist Korean family that made its way into storylines.
Oh, that's great.
It's kind of fun.
Very cool.
Yeah. I had to learn a song one night and play it at a church or a retirement home for Seventh-day Adventists. And it was a service, and Helen played piano, I played guitar, her sister played harp and sang, and her parents sang. And we looked out at the audience at this retirement assisted living facility, and it dawned on me that the song we're playing was more appropriate than it should be. It was "This World Is Not My Home. I'm just a passing through." And I'm just like, well, it's never been truer.
Wow. Funny. That's
and
funny.
they sort of did something with music on that show, that with Adam having to learn a song, or he read the Bible in a night to be able to stand up to whatever Mrs. Kim's questions would be, challenging him and testing his religiosity.
Did you get tested a little bit?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
First time I met Helen's parents, her dad said to me, and this was a surprise, I didn't know this was going to come down, but before dinner they have, on Saturday, the Sabbath, the true Sabbath for Adventists, they have a little Bible reading and song singing, and then a little talk about whatever. And I became the focus of the talk, and was asked what I believed in. And our dad goes, "Well, we're Seventh-day Adventists, and we believe in the Bible as literal truth." And then he got this smug little look on his face and said, "Man did not come from monkeys." And I was just like, I don't want to have this conversation right now. I'm trying to start off on a fair and easy place where we're just kind of getting to know each other. Helen's niece and nephews were there, and they're like 9 and 11, and they're like punching each other's thighs, laughing at me getting drilled, and like, oh, it's like maybe they saw it happen before with the previous boyfriend or something. Hey, he's getting it again.
Man did not come from monkeys.
I'll never forget that. The only other thing, there's many others, but another thing that I always remember his delivery of was when I had the conversation with him that I wanted to marry his daughter, and he said, "I cannot control what Helen does." So I never got his official okay. I just got, well, Helen says yes, yeah, all right. And he's such a sweet, sweet man. And
it's just his way.
Yeah, yes. And Helen and her mom were up the top of the stairs right behind us, like listening, because Helen didn't know I was going to approach her father about getting married. But I don't know. I still ask him 19 years later.
We cool?
Yeah. I fix your computer a lot. So, but yeah, that's been fun. They're getting up there. They're 89 and 88. They've had a couple of setbacks because of car accidents and stuff, but they're still the healthiest people on the planet. Her dad still's got a 6-pack of abs.
Wow.
2 Christmases ago, he asked for a set of weights and a bench, and they're set up in his family room.
Wow. That's impressive. Well, here in Van Nuys, somewhere above the Burbank Airport flight path, I'm going to say thank you so much for for being my first guest.
Well, thank you. I wish I had a bigger blowout story. I'll tell a quick Chevy Chase story.
Yes.
First show premiere, Ron Richards, the co-head writer, was in Chevy's assistant's office, in an outer office. Chevy has an inner office, and I'm standing there with him, and it's about a half hour before the show, and Ron's nervous type, and he's like, oh man, I wish I had a Valium or something. Chevy's assistant opens up the desk drawer, pulls out a bottle of pills, and pours out a bunch of Valium in her palm. And just as she did that, Chevy came out of his office to go get dressed and just picked one out of her palm, dropped it in, and went on to do the first show on a Valium.
Wow.
I don't know what the strength was or how many he could handle, but
was it apparent?
I don't think so, actually. It was a bad show. It didn't help or hurt. So it happened. I was there. That's firsthand information. I can cough that up.
Awesome.
So.
Well, Dave, again, thank you so much.
Very
it was
welcome.
I'm honored, truly.
Oh, that's fun.
That was Dave Rygalski, writer, director, producer. You can follow Dave on Twitter at RygalskiD, RYGALSKID, and on Instagram at One Lucky Hammer. That's the number 1, Lucky Hammer. And definitely check out that CD on samphillips.com. On a future podcast, I'm going to have the former head writer for The Tonight Show, Joe Medeiros, who is going to share his story and talk about an amazing documentary he and his wife Justine produced about the Mona Lisa. And I'm sure he's going to talk to me about Django Reinhardt and Gypsy Jazz. I want to thank Daria Benedict for the opening and closing music. And please support this podcast through Patreon by going to manofconvictionpodcast.com and becoming a patron. Email me at manofconvictionpodcast@gmail.com. Follow me on Instagram, Man of Conviction Pod, or on Facebook, Man of Conviction Podcast. And if you're still listening, maybe leave me a nice review. Thank you.
Says what he wants, but he's all contradicted. When it comes to boxers, the briefs, he's a little bit conflicted. Walks the streets of that night, he's totally unrestricted. He's a man of conviction.